The Garden Oracle by Broccoli has arrived, so I figured let's flip through the cards and check it out. For this video, this will not be a traditional review or walkthrough, but more of a chance for you to see the artwork in the cards, see the comparisons with the other 6 Broccoli decks. I thought it'd be cool to first check out all the boxes. So the standard setup of the Broccoli Oracle decks here, we have the guidebook along with the cards. The box continues the standard setup of the design of these boxes. I thought it'd be cool to see them all together like this. Here's a look at the inside of the boxes. I always think it's pretty cool. Here's the mushroom where it first started, and then you can kind of see they have mostly followed the same pattern. The celestial takes the dark background versus the white, and mushroom being the first one, I'm just going to assume they were just figuring out what they wanted the design pattern to be in these. And the inside of the top lids continue the same exact design and pattern as they always have, which is really cool to see. Once again, the celestial has the dark and all the other ones have the light backgrounds. Let's check out the card backs. They follow the new styling that the fairy tale did, which this is definitely my favorite. We can take a peek through the backs here. You can definitely see a evolution in the style. I definitely love the way that they have taken the last 2 releases. The previous ones with the almost icons or emojis just felt a little too clean, modern, and computery for the style of artwork, so I'm really stoked to see them go in this direction. The guidebook is the same way, set up in the category. So let's just check out what the categories are for this one. So we have actions, plants, features, and creatures. Great, so let's look at the most important part, right? The artwork on the cards. I am going to flip through these and talk as I flip. If you are just looking for a silent flip through, go ahead and mute me, put it on 2x speed, and watch the flip through as best as you can. I just love and can't help myself discussing artwork during these types of things. So we're zoomed in. Let's check out the artwork. Right off the bat, I love this new inclusion of typography into the cut collage pieces. That's a new step in the artwork style for these decks, and I'm really loving it because it makes me think of the text, the typography on seed packets, on old fruit signs. A lot of text was used, so I think this is a very clever inclusion. The fairy tale oracle also had an extremely clever inclusion with the shapes and backgrounds with the almost quilt-like pattern. We have a beautiful use of multi-different pieces to form this overall composition. I love that we have the focal point of the figure, and then in the background, we have multiple different layers that are almost blending into one another and feeling like they were meant to always be as one, and I love that in collage work. Similar to here, I love how our different pieces are framing the main subject matter of this playful scene here. It's pushing our eye to look at the figures and the animals are from 2 different paintings. It looks very natural. I love that. The peak of the apple blossoms in the background really pulls in the pink, balances the composition. There's almost a double play here with the artwork. The keyword with fertilizing doesn't necessarily make me think of this playful scene with the people and animals. If you think of fertilizing plus the 3 additional keywords here of enrichment, replenishment, and thriving, that definitely speaks to the scene of these people and animals having a really great time. Love the use of the light color with the dark color alternating here. It really gives this S-curve composition and has our eye land directly on the main action and the main focal point in this card. The figures are resting, which is curious since the keyword is harvesting and we're talking about reaping output and fruition. I would figure I would see people working rather than resting. I do understand that during harvesting, we do need to take a break. The artwork fits the keywords. I'm loving the cutout use and shapes here. Here we have a pop of the typography again. I really am liking that. That's a really cool addition. Oh, hello, 4 coins from the Folkloric Forest deck. Here we go. We have almost like these old seed bags or seed advertisements with the type in this. I'm really liking that. It's a clever inclusion. I think it fits the deck's theme incredibly well. This is great. I love the blue skies. I like that we're getting a bit of seasonality through the other pieces in this work. This is beautiful. This cutout is really giving us a glimpse into the path you came from or the path you're going to, a rather young figure with the keyword training. I think that's beautiful. With the rainbow, it really brings in that sort of hope and growth and luck. Another really great one, the artwork speaks to the keywords here. We can see that the figure is in motion, is working, is moving, and that fits in beautifully with these keywords. So far what I've noticed is there's not a lot of big image placed on top of these cutout background images. They are much more scenic and the main feature in this deck so far. I will say that the big piece on top of these backgrounds are definitely my favorite style of these decks. So far this one is feeling a lot more softer than the other decks. It's feeling a bit more subtle, and I think that's the use of just using these cutout shapes and the handful of antique paintings to form the collage. I could really see a big bulb cutout piece right in the center here in this sort of open spot. I think that would be pretty interesting to see. I like that we're getting a bit more of time of year and seasons, very end of the year, Christmas, winter, snow. I like that it's not all bright and springy and summery. This one reminds me a bit of, I think it's like a forest card or a tree card in the fairy tale. Yeah, I'm really loving the soft color palette with this typography. It's really pretty. This one's definitely feeling a different vibe. This one's just feeling a lot more romantic than the other ones, which is interesting because I keep wanting to call this the Secret Garden Oracle. I feel like there's an undercurrent of that theme, that idea in this, just based on the imagery selected, the color palettes, the sort of softness of everything. Now here, this blackberry image is really kind of hard to see, and I think I would have selected a painting that showed blackberries in a lot more clear and obvious way. It just looks like a blob, and that's just something that you have to consider when you're creating artwork. It's going to print, it's going to the masses. At a glance, can you instantly tell what it is? Obviously, when you read fruits, you see the strawberries, you can put it together as blackberries, but think about how quick our eye and our brain has to grab information. For example, scrolling through social media, we're seeing things at a blink of an eye, and we have to register exactly what that is. So the simpler and the less confusing we can have the brain and the eye interpret and inform us what it is we're seeing, the better. This one's very luscious. I like how we're getting almost a split view here for ground cover. We have the ground level, but then we almost have the upshot of like what you would be seeing if you were under that ground cover. I think that's rather clever. I like how we're getting the hand connection for knowledge with herbs. It's really bringing in that human experience, the touch to this plant of the process. I think that's really smart, especially with the word healing, having that human element meet the plant element. Now see, this one I feel like we could have had a big statue. Yeah, I think that's what I'm really missing in this one, are those big pieces. I do like how there's use of these cutout shapes to form something that looks like it's melded as one. I think that's definitely working in this. And once again, I think that's what's giving it a little bit of that gentler vibe in this deck. See how the pumpkins giving the illusion of the roundness of a head of lettuce. So at glance, it looks as a whole shape. We know it's not, but do you know what I mean? At that glance, it just naturally tucks right in with one another. And that's part of the challenge and skill with collage. This card, I'm getting a disconnect between the keywords and the artwork. There's almost a sort of cycle of life present here, almost like a food chain in a way. but I'm not sure this is working for me. I think I would need to sit with it, read the book. I'm not 100% on this one. Love the sense of comfort here. For the arbor word, it definitely is something that feels comfortable in the enclosure. And I think this artwork speaks really well to that keyword. See, beehive here would be awesome for a huge beehive image on this. It's like perfect for it. Interesting. So here's our first image overlay, and we are that much through the deck. Since we're already well over halfway through the deck, I feel like you're either going to include these cutouts on top or you're not going to at all, because there can't be that many in here through the rest of the deck. And at that point, I ask why. It's either they mostly have the big cutouts on top with the backgrounds as they've been done throughout all the past decks, or they don't have any at all, because now it just feels a little out of place. And bird bath with a keyhole. Some of these just are not connecting for me. I'm not sure. This one, I guess you could call a little bit of a cutout in here. I like the idea of this piece is almost like what is coming into focus, is what's on the mind, is what you're gazing. Greenhouse is great, very bright light, feels uplifting and positive, which a greenhouse really much is that. I enjoy how we're cutting right at the handhold. You still can understand what the figures are and what they're doing. I will say it looks like he has no pants. That would be something that I probably would have edited them closer together, which would require some compositing to the image. But I think it would just read a little stronger and less no pants man. This one's great. We're getting this full scene. We're getting the water, the animals, the nature, the human, the living situations. I think this one really encapsulates the keywords, the theme, the imagery really well. Okay, so a cutout key on top. I just don't think the key fits for soil and the keywords. I mean, I understand soil is the key to all of this, so in that way, yes. But once again, I go back to the big cutouts haven't been used on 95% of the cards yet. So I'm curious to the reasoning, and I'm curious to the why. Really love the colors in this. I'm loving seeing the close-up of the image, but then the sort of zoom back of the path and what the figures and the creature is doing. Got a little bit of that text snippet here, which I'm really loving throughout this deck. I like that we're getting this stone, this walking idea. It ties in well to the keyword. I think sundial is great. We've got an egg nest here that speaks to time and evolving and cycles of life. The sun with a sunflower and the growth of flowers relying on the sun and time. This one's really great. We're getting this arch, which is playing off of the arch in this original painting, and we're getting that shape tying into that to then frame and move our eye to the figure here on the swing, which is the focal point with the keyword. I'd love to see a topiary here. I just can envision the big cutout piece on top of this. It feels like a background. Like it feels like a main subject matter missing, because our eye is just going into these arches down into this skinny dead space there. And I don't think that necessarily plays into the keywords. Deer being the keyword for this card, I would expect to see them be the bigger half and not the smaller half. I do like that it plays with them laying in this wildflower scene, and that the bigger scene here speaks to quietude. But I just feel like a switch of the visual hierarchy here would play into that keyword focus. I would love to see the worm be a big cutout on top here. I also probably would have changed the color of the worm to be darker or lighter, but I think at the end of the day, it just needed a different image in the background because the colors are so similar that they just blend together there. And we really want the focus to match the keyword. Same with this one. I would love to see a giant ladybug right in the center there, right on top of everything. I looked at this very last. All I could look at was the figure, the purse, and the greenery, and I was searching for the ladybug. I love how the rabbits are nestled in to the composition here, playing into the keywords. We got a nice focus on the main keyword here of rabbit, and I love just the comfort that this brings with the imagery and the composition cutouts. Okay, so one more cutout here on top, which makes 3 out of 44 cards. So there's 44, so 41 cards. It doesn't feel purposeful enough. And I'm pretty sure this slug was used in the mushroom deck. But I like how the blooms here are playing into the rear end, and it kind of, once again, is like tucking together, like how this slug is really tucking together with this shape. There's just a really nice circular composition that our eye can move around, and everything is really wedged and nestled in nicely. And the last one, spider. Love that spider is focal point. It looks like it's in this tunnel, this archway. We have the laundry hanging up, which, I think is an interesting play in the weaving of the web. And I like this one. This is a good one. If I had to rank these overall into my favorites to my least favorites, I would say unfortunately this one would land in my least favorites. It's still a great deck. I think all the broccoli decks are still great. I am just being nitpicky and tough. But I would say the way that the main artwork is mostly just the cutouts for the background doesn't quite feel enough for me. I think the ones where they have a figure that is then popping out above the other background pieces, I think that works because it lends itself to the already established style of the single piece on top of these cutout pieces. So I think when it has a figure and it has a really well done image selection and it plays well into the keywords, you can still focus really clearly on the subject matter. I still think these are great. This one I think can still work, but where we start to get into there's not a main focal point, I think this is great because this acts as their own pieces. Once again, when we have a nice clear focal point, I think it still works really well. Even this, because it kind of looks like a daydream, but I think the keywords are a little hit and miss for me in this one. See, this, our eye wants to go to the center. Our eye always wants to land in the center, and our eye is landing on blank space on this one. I think this is cool because we still have busy detail here, so it balances that composition. This one's flowering tree, so I understand that's what we want as the main focal point. Yeah, I think this one falls in line with the way I feel about the crystal one and the mushroom one. The crystal one here on the left does do a lot more of the cutout imagery on top of the background. The mushroom does a lot more than the garden one. But the mushroom falls into the same category as the garden one where there seems to be unbalanced focus elsewhere. It feels a little busier in the mushroom. I think there's clear cut layers and a composition in the garden, but it has those holes where our eye is just landing on these blank areas. We're looking for information. We're looking for information of fruits, and our eye goes to this sort of empty spot. Once again, the crystal does do a good job of placing an image in the center there to really focus in on what we are supposed to be looking at and understanding. So I would lump these three together for me as not as strong as I would say the fairy tale is, the seashell one is, and the celestial one is. Those three are definitely my tops. Here's the slug. Okay, so yes, there was slug used. And I totally get it. There's only so many images you can find online and that are public domain or commercial free, rights free. Totally get it. But I probably would have not included it because it was in the mushroom one. See, I think it's successful if we're not going to have a main piece on top here, that other pieces are breaking through on top of the bigger shaped cutouts. That brings visual interest. It makes it feel more dynamic. Once again, even though I am saying this type of feedback and critique here, I am by no means meaning that these are awful decks or bad artwork by any means. That's certainly not the case. This is really interesting, great collage work. It has a style, it has a flavor, and it's a lot of artwork to make. So it is by no means to knock anything. when I create artwork, there's always going to be your A pluses, your A's, your A minuses, your B pluses, your B's, right? And because they're mixed all together as a family of cards, they work together because you have your superstars, your shining ones, the ones you love the most, and ones that you're like, yeah, they're okay, they're fine, they're passable, but not as good as the ones that are my most favorite. And that's just the nature of this. So by no means is this anything negative I'm to say. I am just pointing out what I would naturally be talking to myself about while flipping through decks. And I thought it would be really interesting to look at these together since I have all of them. The crystal one, while I love all the inclusions of this big individual piece in the center, I think it lost its way a little bit with all of the people inclusions for the backgrounds. There's a lot of bigger, fuller size imagery used for the backgrounds versus, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces for a background. This one looks a little less. This looks like one main background, the women, the mushrooms, and then the mushroom in the background. This one's one main image with just the mushroom cut out on top. This is only 2 with the couple of crystals. This is 2. But you see how you can make 2? Well, 3 actually. This is 3. But you see how you can make 3 pieces just with the right cutouts, with the right shape, with the right focus, feel a lot more rich and full versus a single background with a mushroom on top, which could have been more dynamically placed and integrated into the figures here. And the crystals here get lost. And I think that's the problem with the crystal one for me. A lot of the times the crystals just feel lost in the imagery or just misplaced. Okay, I think it'd be really fun to do a speed run of pairings with this. So I went ahead and just grabbed any and all decks that I think could semi-work with this. So I have a mixture of Oracle decks to show, of Tarot decks to show, and let's just see what kind of combinations we can come up with. The first pairing I thought of right off the bat was the Enchanted Tarot. I thought the color palette and the heavy use of a lot of naturey inclusions would look beautiful with this, especially it was really about the colors for me. This has like a softer color palette and I thought it would look beautifully, and so far I'm really liking what I'm seeing. This would absolutely be a yes for me. I would probably even include another deck right here. I don't have necessarily what that deck would be, but that's where my mind is going. I would probably do another Oracle here, or if I was wanting to lean more into the tarot narrative, one more tarot here. Thinking, what if we just tried something like this? The Perfect Scheme has a soft color palette as well. It's bringing in the watercolor artwork, but that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's really a sell for me. These two are great though. Since I have this one out, let's just see how it looks. So let's just pull off the top here. I think visually they could definitely play together. I'm not sure I would necessarily read them like this, but I think it does work with the color palette and the theme between the two. This one is definitely a little punchier. I think if we added a neutral colored tarot to this, it would really balance these two out a bit more. Let's see what this looks like in the center. Now this could be interesting. This could be more up my alley directionally wise of the balance of visuals. Visuals definitely play a huge factor in the way I read, in the way I pair, in the way I put my spreads together. So something like this could be effective. Once again, I would probably add in that tarot layer to this, but it's working. Like, it's not as good as the last one, but I think it's serviceable. Okay, what about these two? I was feeling like maybe these. So I was thinking these two would look really great together. I do think it needs a tarot or a really strong oracle to anchor it in, but I could really see this working as the main focus and then having the garden oracle be that story, be that narrative teller with the title base oracle here, which is very what you're seeing is the title, and then there's some objects on there. So I think these extra keywords along with the more detailed imagery could really feed into this center oracle and add oomph to it. would love to add a tarot to this. I think we could probably say the same for this Japanese fairy oracle. I would probably have it be the front and center since it is very action and emotional based of what the phrases are. So I'd probably have that be the main focus and then have the garden oracle add in all those extra layers. But I do think they look really good together. They play in the same nature theme. So with the theme and the color palette, I do think they play nicely, even though they're totally different visual styles. We have collage with a very textured illustration style. But yeah, I'm liking this. I like the textured style for the nature, for the garden themes. It really gives that earthiness to it. Okay, I thought JJ7 maybe could work, but looking at it, I think it's going to be too dark. But let's just check it out. Let's just see, because you never know. It's going to be it's too dark for me, but I think it might be able to work if I had it in one of my bigger patchwork spreads and I had something else here to balance out this darkness with this more softer color palette. I think it could work because theme-wise, it's totally spot on, and because the illustrations are a bit more simplified than the more complex imagery in the oracle. I think it could work. I just think it needs one or two more decks to balance it out because it is such more of a darker toned artwork. Okay, what about tarot from the world behind the veil? I thought, let's throw in a little folklore. I pair the seashell oracle with the yokai tarot, which this is the same artist. So let's just see how this one works. I was thinking maybe not. Yeah, it's probably going to be a no. The seashell has a more muted color palette, that very like sandy color palette. And then the yokai also is a much more like neutral toned down color palette as well. And Japan is an island, so I love the water element pairing for the theme. But yeah, these are not. I thought the enchanted blossoms could work. I thought it had a neutral color palette and then it has flowers or garden elements with these dragon butterflies. Yeah, I think it's a little clashy of styles, only because these are like slightly cartoony, and I don't mean like cartoony, but in comparison to this, they feel a little out of place. But sometimes that just means we got to do a little shift. Sometimes when we take the focus off of it having doubles and place it in the center and let the other deck be the outer edges in the spread, it kind of has a better visual balance. I do think this is a better visual balance, although I still don't think it's necessarily 100% there. This could work if I had another really strong deck with it. I could use this as my foundation starting point to the spread. I would have these build off of that and then build out a little more here to add more to these two together. But just these two on their own, no. I was thinking maybe sacred symbols. You never know. And if we do a double, no, when you get that color-wise, it makes it feel like, yeah, that's fine. But I think if you land on ones that aren't as vibing color-wise, not 100% sure. I feel like this is in the case of the last one with the enchanted blossoms. Like, it needs a third deck to really tie them together, because sometimes when you add a third or fourth deck, it starts to bring everything together like a patchwork quilt. But when you're just focusing on two and they're distinct different styles, then sometimes it can be a little jarring. But when you add that third or fourth deck in to balance those styles out, it usually kind of like gels better. But this as is a no. I was thinking oak, ash, and thorn could be a good potential. It does have a lot of darker backgrounds. I don't know, I kind of like that. Let's try again. I had a feeling this one might work because it does balance darks and lights. It has the nature theme. It has the animals. I think these could work really well. I think on their own, these two can definitely do something. For sure. You see how they're like playing into each other? I like that then the oracle can be the focus of this animal world. This would be a yes for me. I wasn't sure about this one. Yeah, I think their styles are a little jarring. It could work together better if maybe hush is the focus. I feel like this one is also a case of I could add a third or fourth deck in to really tie it together, because I feel like adding the hush into the garden oracle would make it turn a little more fall, make it turn a little bit more of that withering season. So I feel like in a way it could tone down the softness of the oracle and add a bit of grit. As I said that, I thought I should try it with folkloric forest because I use folkloric forest to add a layer of grit and add a layer of that sort of toughness to Into the Lonely Woods. So maybe this would do the same for this. Sometimes I do have a hard time with lighter toned, lighter colored decks pairing with forest just because it is so a rich and dark deck. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think I could make an argument for it. It's kind of taking it out of this very secure and soft place of the oracle and taking it out more into the brutal wild. So I think if that's like a theme or somewhere you wanted to poke and prod, I think this could work. Let's just try one more. Yeah, I think this could work if you're looking to push those areas of that juxtaposition of hard meets soft. I think it could work. I don't know if it's 100% my favorite, but it's definitely doable. How about Pagan Otherworlds? Let's try it out. I'm just really speed running this, so I hope this is interesting to you to see like what maybe is working or not working for you. I thought with the light backgrounds, the outdoorsy, naturey theme of the Pagan Otherworlds, it could work. I think this could work. I think this could work better in a bigger spread with another deck. That seems to kind of be the conclusion with all this. And if I really sit and think about it, I do normally pair the broccoli decks in a larger spread, in more of a patchwork spread, to get in those mixes of other decks and really kind of meld styles together. I would say these two on their own is totally fine. I would probably go for others over this though. But I think in a bigger spread with another deck or two, absolutely. The Faceted Garden and the Illuminated Earth, I thought there could be potential in this. This one has a bit of a brighter, lighter, softer color palette, and this one's a bit more earthier and dark, so it'd be interesting to see how these play out. Here's with the Faceted Garden. I'm liking this one so far. I think it's pulling the dark hues out of this oracle more. This one is abstract enough where our focus and the busyness, the heavier, denser visual information is coming off of this one. So I think it's an interesting balance. Let's see what the other one looks like though. Okay, how are we feeling about this? It's working as well. I don't know if it's just because these three color-wise happen to look rather decent together. Let's try another. I'm liking this one as well for that abstraction of artwork that this one brings. I think I might like the Faceted Garden more with this one though. But this one kind of brings that grittier, darker feeling. So if that's where you're looking to push this oracle deck, I think this one could work. Let's see one more. Yeah, I think it could work. It's not my favorite, but it's okay. I grabbed the John Bauer. I think maybe it could work. That's kind of my answer to all this. I think it could work, but that's how I go into these pairings. It's like, I think this could work. Let's just try it because you don't know until you see it. My gut says no. It's a little too different. It's a little too clashy. I thought this sort of fairy tale storybook would work with this one. It's not. How about the Badger's Forest Tarot? Soft color palette, I thought could work with this. These two. Now this one's a good size because I could slip it into a bigger spread that already has like 2 decks used. So on its own, I'm not sure this would be a yes for me, but I think in a bigger spread, in a bigger group of pairings, they could play off of each other just because this is 100% nature-based. And while we've moved from the garden to the forest, I think it still works. A lot of these animals still roam many of gardens. So theme-wise, I think it works. Color palette-wise, I think it can work, but it needs something else to tie it together. That's just the general answer to a lot of these. One more to try, the Wooden Tarot. Let's see how it does. I thought maybe the neutral background would play nicely with the oracle, and then of course, it has a lot of nature-y elements and themes to it. I'm not 100% sold. I think it's cool. I think it needs something else. And once again, that is just the answer to these pairings. I like it though. I like the imagery because it's rather simple and very focused. While there's still detail in this illustration, it's not full-blown explosion of visuals. So it balances nicely with this oracle. Super strong potential here. I think maybe I could make this work. I think this is another case of putting something here, bring it all together. I'm liking it though, I'm liking it. All right, I hope you had a good time walking through this with me. I am just always excited for a new broccoli deck. This one was certainly no exception to that. I still think it really has its place. And while maybe it's not my top 3 out of all the decks, I think there is definitely something here that it's offering that the others aren't. Once again, it has a very romantic feel to it. It has a very soft and gentle vibe. I think the other ones have a bit more edge to them. If you're looking for something that has a bit more romance, a bit more of a gentle image, but you still really like collage image, it's not jarring, it's not harsh. For all the things I said that maybe aren't working 100% for me, they could totally be working for you, and that's the beauty of all of this. This is still 100% an absolute keeper for me, and I can't wait to find its place in my practice and in my collection, because that's also just a thing with this. Like, decks take some time to grow and evolve with you, and I don't consider myself a very soft or romantic person, so that is absolutely 100% a part of this for me. However, I'm still thrilled. I hope you found this useful in your decision making, whether to pick this deck up or not. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.